once again, and welcome to the audience from various parts of the world to the day 3 of the TiE Sustainability Summit 2021, organized by TiE Hyderabad chapter. This is Rajesh Pagdala, founder and managing director of Pagdala Constructions, a real estate development company delivering luxurious and affordable homes for the modern times. I'm also the founder and CEO of BuilderSmart, an online trade platform from building and construction materials industry. I'm excited to introduce the topic for the session, bridging the funding gap for women entrepreneurship. Okay, a society in which women cannot realize their full potential loses out on the significant potential for innovation growth. As a study by IMF showed that in India, the measures to close the gender gap could lead to a whopping 6.8% gain in GDP. To move to the next level of growth, let's bridge the gender gap on priority. So to talk on this topic, we have put a wonderful panel together. So before we get into the panel, it's my privilege to introduce the moderator for the topic, Ms. Padmaja Ruparel, who is the co-founder and the president of Indian Angel Network. Ms. Padmaja is nationally recognized as a key player in the Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem. She has been awarded top 50 most powerful women in business by Fortune India for 2017, 18, and 19, 3 consecutive years. Listed in Forbes India's Women Power Trailblazers and considered as 30 most powerful women in India by Business Today for the last 3 years running. The Women Economic Forum recognized her with its Woman of the Decade in Investment Banking Award. Padmaja has been nominated as a co-chair of Global Business Angel Network. She is also a senior managing partner in IAN Fund, investing in seed and early stage ventures. She is a member of Governing Council of EM3 Services, a nation-building venture seeking to create paradigm shift in Indian agriculture sector by improving productivity. Padmaja is also an independent director on the boards of Avendus Finance Private Limited, Astor Industries Limited. She's a graduate with honors in English and completed her MBA and as well as chartered accountancy. I welcome Ms. Padmaja and the panelists to the main stage. Ms. Padmaja, please take forward and introduce your panel. And I'm looking forward for an exciting and insightful session. Thank you all and enjoy and have a great discussion.
Thank you very much, Rajendra. Thank you for this very warm welcome. First of all, before I start the panel, I would actually like to congratulate TSS team for organizing such an incredible event. I have been logging on to some of the sessions. I've been watching all the WhatsApps that I'm receiving, and I'm sure I'm receiving only a fraction of them, but each of them is a huge, huge credit to the team. So first of all, TSS team, take it away. You've done an awesome, awesome job. Congratulations. I am really delighted, Rajendra, actually, to be moderating this panel because it's a very tough job, and I hope I make it. I have 3 powerful speakers, each bringing in very, very different perspectives, each coming in with very different experiences. So I do think we have an exciting session right up front. But before I go into the panel, I thought the topic said that funding for women entrepreneurs and bridging the gap. So I thought I'll just give a little bit of a background on India's gap. Today, as we talk about women entrepreneurs, it's interesting to understand that almost of the 60 million entrepreneurs in India, nearly 14% are women. That's a pretty small fraction. Indian women-owned businesses provide employment for almost 14 million people. And in 2017, interestingly, only 2% of the startup funding went to a founder. Today, that has gone up to about 15 to 16%. As Rajendra mentioned in the opening sentences, that India's GDP could rise by between 16 to 60% by 2025 if women participated equally in the economy. Projections show that this could mean a whopping 2 million trillion added to the economy. And that's a huge jump. 30% of India's tech force was female in 2017. Today, that has gone up to 60%. So what we're seeing is a huge gap in Indian entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs raising money. Is that a problem? No, I read it as an opportunity. I think for investors, there is clearly an opportunity sitting right there. And for women entrepreneurs, the focus that you're getting in the ecosystem today is something you need to leverage. On that note, let me stop here and actually introduce my panelists. They are the people who will be able to enlighten us much more. Let me start with the youngest, Bharti Singla. Bharti is an entrepreneur, and I know her for some years now, and all I can say, she's not only passionate, she's not only diligent, she's not only persevering, but gosh, she is a determined young lady. She's into manufacturing tech. An IIT Delhi alum, she's one person who's carried the company Chakra Innovation to the next level. Welcome, Bharti, to the panel. I'm honored to actually introduce Sanjay Mehta. Sanjay is an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur who's now an angel investor, founder and partner of 100x VC. There are very few people in India in the startup ecosystem who don't know Sanjay. And those who don't, today is a great opportunity to know him. And finally, last but not the least at all, is my lady Seema. She comes from the US. Seema Chaturvedi, founder and managing partner of India's #1 gender smart early growth venture equity fund, AWE Funds. Seema is extremely passionate about promoting entrepreneurship, and I should know it. She's calling me at all odd hours, particularly women entrepreneurship. Among her many initiatives, she was the first woman member of the TIR Global Board, and also founded and led as chairwoman TIE Global's marquee women's entrepreneurship program, Project All India Roadshow for Women's Economic Empowerment through Entrepreneurship, AIRSWE. I have seen Seema in action, and believe me, there are women who follow her and follow her ardently. We're lucky to have you on the panel, Seema. On that note, let me start by the youngest again. She's a young entrepreneur building her company, raised a couple of rounds of money. It would be very interesting to get your insights, Bharti, as you started up the company and you went through your angel, seed, and I know you're going through another round. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Padmaja ma'am, and thank you for the not so well-deserved introduction as well as this opportunity. I think talking about the funding gap for women entrepreneurs, for me, I feel that I probably speak from a position of privilege because through our journey at Chakra, we've been very fortunate. And why I say we've been very fortunate is because we've actually had the opportunity to work with investors like Padmaja ma'am herself and many others, where I felt that, while we were out there raising funds, we actually did not face as many challenges as I've heard other people face. So as Chakra, we've been very fortunate to have come across very good investors and a very good ecosystem that has helped us get the right kind of capital at the right time. So I will probably start with just briefly speaking about our journey, what we have done so far, and where I feel the gap still lies based on my understanding. So we started Chakra in 2016 with the idea of controlling air pollution through technical innovation. So we are a group of mechanical, chemical, electrical engineers trying to solve the problem of air pollution. We have developed a device which fits on top of diesel generators, captures 70 to 90% of the particulate matter that comes out of the DG sets. We are a business that is hardware focused. It's in B2B space, and it's also heavily regulated and we would see most of the sustainability related businesses do end up being linked somewhere to the regulation, either heavily regulated or have to change regulations in a way to operate. So given this construct, it was obviously, we were not the standard company in which VCs would generally invest. And at the same time, as a woman myself in the manufacturing space, I also feel that, at times there have been instances where I was second guessed for my role, whether I can actually play that role also or not. But over time, we saw a lot of investors. So starting with our angel investors who gave us our money in 2016 itself, in our seed round where we got money from the Parampara Capital Fund. Again, I was very fortunate to have another woman across the table there, Harsha, who showed faith in me. And then our Series A, which we raised from IN Fund and ONGC. And again, we were fortunate to have Padmaja ma'am on the other side. So I would say, I might be coming up with a hypothesis without a lot of data, but data from ourselves, that one of the biggest impacts that we can create by bridging the funding gap for women entrepreneurs is actually to have more women investing, because that ensures, that there are people who understand your strengths on the other side of the table as well. And I think that has been my biggest learning from this journey. Coming to briefly talking about why I believe, that there should be women both on the investing side as well as on the entrepreneurship side, and it's not coming from a point of saying that women are more superior, but there is data which shows that any startup which has at least one woman co-founder performs better than a all-male co-founder startup. And that's not because, women are generally better. It's just that when you have diversity, when you have different backgrounds and different perspectives, you will perform better. And hence, I feel if we really want to bridge the gap, we need to bridge the gap, first of all, on having more women investing, like we have our two esteemed panelists on this panel, as well as creating, creating some more recognition and awareness around why having diversity, having diverse experience and backgrounds can actually help businesses do better.
Thank you, Bharti. I think you made a very, very key point. To have more women entrepreneurs, you need more women investors. And it does echo what I think we always talk about, that to increase entrepreneurs, you need more money on the table. You need more investors. So yes, it echoes right there. On this panel, we just about missed not being gender diverse by having Sanjay on the panel. So Sanjay, if I may request you, before I get another woman on to talk, to really share your perspectives as a seed and early stage investor. I know you've been extremely successful, but more important, I think you've gathered huge insights from your investing journey.
Sure. Thank you, Padmaja, and thank you, TiE Hyderabad, for having me on this panel. It's gratifying among all these women leaders who are there and to voice my opinion on the startup ecosystem. First and foremost, I mean, if I have to rattle some numbers, only 5 women-led unicorns are there out of 136 what we have in India, right? So that there's huge opportunity, I would say, across for women entrepreneurs to, leapfrog and build their story. I don't see anywhere a challenge where investors are differentiating between a woman or a man or a male-female kind of, differentiation as an entrepreneur. But there are specific areas where I think investors need help. And this I realized, when we were dealing with a couple of femtech startups. Very difficult. I mean, we at 100x.vc, we were all partners who were all men. And very difficult to, understand how femtech works across. And finally, just giving an anecdotal example, we were looking at a startup called Maeva, which is into PCOS and PCOD stuff. And very difficult for us to understand those challenges. And when we spoke across within family and, got some insights, everybody said this is the stuff you should fund kind of stuff. So more women investors are required. We got our first, team member who is a female. More we are looking across, but idea is very rightly said, Bharti. More women investors are required. It not just for the femtech side of it, but there are many issues which how a female would look at the deals and evaluate and their perspective. I think will be a great value addition to many of the VC funds who are out investing. So definitely a lot to be done, but I see this as a opportunity for women, Indian women entrepreneur or Indian females to grab it. Right? It's an open market. A lot of opportunities are there. On the tech side of it, I see continuously a lot of great tech developers are females, and the kind of work they are doing across. One of our common portfolio between me and Padmaja, we have Loginext, where one of the CTO, the founder Manisha, the great female-led company. So definitely the CTO roles are being grabbed by females much better way. We have another common company between Padmaja, IN, and myself as an angel, where I was an IN member called Sirona or Peabody, which is a femtech in a, I would say, female brand hygiene company. So, specific sector investments are happening. Female-led companies are getting attention. So, a lot of opportunities are there. I think it should. I mean, the catalyst here would be more women investor, as Bharti started, and I echo the similar thoughts. I mean, we need more clones of Seema and Padmaja.
Thank you. You're just adding more work to our table. That's the problem. So now Seema, as you know, is a VC investing in the women entrepreneurs. Seema, your journey, and would you like to share your perspective of investing at the intersection of sustainability and gender equity? I mean, it's a great idea to talk about gender equity, but there are other diversities also required. But as this is a woman entrepreneur panel, right?
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Padmaja and Rajesh. Thank you for inviting TSS. Phenomenal work. TiE has been a home for forever for me, but it's always amazing to see the TiE teams do coalesce and convene such amazing speakers. Given that we've had such great comments by Bharti and Sanjay, specifically starting from an entrepreneur's journey and specifically looking at it from an investor standpoint, I will actually take all of us a little more macro. And I will encourage all of us, and I know there's been a lot of numbers being shared, but I'll throw some more numbers at you. And I'm going to make a case for why there needs to be not just gender investing, but there needs to be an actual intersection, very intentional intersection between climate investing and gender lens investing. And why that as a society, and not just since TiE is global, at a global level also, it makes a lot of sense. So let me start by framing the issue for all of you. And please let me know, I did prepare some remarks, so please let me know if you can't see me, and then we'll have to worry about technology, but I'm going to just toggle over to my notes. So am I still visible? Anybody?
Yes, you are.
Okay, awesome, perfect. All right, so let me set the frame. I want to frame the issue of why, ultimately, the argument that I'm driving to is why there needs to be an intersection between climate and gender investing. But here's how I frame it. So the fact that we all have been talking about in this entire TSS is the problem of climate change, to state what numerous speakers have said before. The problem of climate change is threatening sustainability, right? We all kind of now have woken up to it. The fact that in the coming years, the world is going to lose trillions of dollars and hundreds of millions of lives are going to definitely be impacted and possibly lost. Temperature rises are going to lead to productivity losses, GDP losses. But guess what, folks? The impact of this gender change, sadly, is not gender equitable. And I say this from leveraging my years back in my years of having studied economics, and I'm going to take some of you back to that. So here's what's happening and why I say that the impact of gender change is not equitable. And I'm talking macro now. Every year, there's about 21 to 22 million people who are displaced entirely because of climate-related issues. And sadly, women and children are 14 times more likely than men to die in these natural disasters or these displacements. And that's a massive multiplier effect. So, it's not apples to apples here. People who make up the 5% of the world's poorest and maintain 80% of our planet's biodiversity, employ 60 to 70% women. It is known that climate disasters do increase gender-based violence, sexual harassment, domestic violence, child marriage, sexual exploitation, and human trafficking. In fact, we did a study with Bain & Company and Google right at the outset of the outbreak of COVID in India specifically. And we found that women entrepreneurs were closing businesses in droves at a far more faster clip because of the impact that they were feeling with not just running their businesses, but also now taking over additional responsibility of running their homes with everybody being at home. Now, understand that in terms of one of our biggest sectors of employment, agriculture, which is very predominant in Asia and even in some parts of, mostly sub-Saharan Africa, but other developing parts of the world, women are anywhere between 40 to 70%. In the case of India, for marginal farms, 70% of those workers are women. So hopefully with all those statistics, I've convinced you, or at least made you think about how the impact of climate change is not gender equitable. Let me give you some specific case studies for all of us to think about. And for us, this is very important. We're looking at water, for example, as an area, and I'd love to invite Sanjay and Padmaja, all of us, to look at some opportunities together. The numbers are shocking. There's about 2.6 billion people, which is about 2 times India's population, 7 times US population, that lacks clean drinking water and sanitation. Why is that relevant to women? Women spend an estimated 266 million hours just resourcing and finding water and finding safe ways of sanitation. So when you talk about Peabody and some of those, they're really important. If you just do the math, 266 million hours is 30,000, let's round it to 30,500 years. And that, as a humanity, are the years that are getting lost in just and only just women going and finding water. And that is the burden that is entirely being borne by women. So if we were to take this time away from women in procuring water and let them go to college, guess what? They'll actually earn college degrees. And it's been estimated that about 46,000 women can earn a college degree every day. So you can see the inequity there. Another example of agriculture, which is where we are actively investing as well. As I've been telling you, India is mostly marginal farms. Family farms that are run by women tend to be smaller than men. Therefore, they cannot employ the technology that bigger farms can. If we were to improve their farm yields by giving them greater technology and greater access to being able to handle climate-related losses, we could improve up to 30% of their yields and outputs. Let me take one last example, one last case study, the future of jobs. So while all of us are gung-ho about renewables and about talking about STEM, unfortunately, women only make up 25% of the workforce that will be ready. Out of the 18 million odd jobs that are coming out in just the renewable energy, only 25% are women. So even the future of work does not look very bright if we do not do some active intervention. As Padmaja said, why is this relevant for all of us talking right now? In India, we're losing massive GDP, up to estimates are $1 trillion. The world is losing about $28 trillion annually in this loss of productivity. So where's the solution? Well, here's the thing, and this was a very interesting quote. The former Irish president and UN Rights Commissioner, Mary Robinson said, climate change is a man-made problem, but it has a feminist solution. And I chuckled as I read that, because that ties in extremely well with AWE funds, and I'll tell you why. The solution, so women are not just the victims of climate change, but they are also the solution, and I strongly endorse that. So why do I say that? I think women's expertise, leadership, purchasing power, their experiences, which are their lived reality, can help us all unlock the gender smart. And the point that Sanjay made in the context of Femtech, it is our lived reality to be able to bring those experience sets to the table. But folks, give us a seat at the table. And that is what we are championing. So what do I need? What does the solution look like? And what do we need for the solution to be effective? At the macro level, okay, we need to invest in climate, not only just the climate change resiliency, but also adapt it to women's rights and women's health programming. I'm proposing we include women in climate change mitigation, include women in investment. Bharti spoke of that. Improve women's land right ownerships. So we're going beyond just startup nation here. We're talking big changes that can be done and should be done, whether it's related to ownership, inheritance for girls and women. Promote gender responsive approach to climate finance and invest in technologies that enhance clean energy sources, which bring in women's participation. And that's exactly what Allfunds does. So we are a gender smart investment vehicle, which is investing at the intersection of environment, of clean tech, of sustainability. And why do I call it an intersection? It's because we have gender smart ambitions and we have climate ambitions. Gender smart ambitions are increasing women, not just as entrepreneurs, but in employment, in leadership, in consumption, in making markets and supply chain. Our climate ambitions are like those of everyone else on this call: mitigation, adaptation, resilience, and a transition which is equitable and just. So I know I might have gone too long, but I want to give you two things. I want to leave you why all of this makes sense. One, what are our imperatives that drive us to consider this intersection? There are 5 reasons, and I'll just mention them without diving deep into them. One is we think it's a great way to mitigate risk. 2 is it fulfills our fiduciary duty as fund managers to meet our investor expectations, because we are chasing that incremental alpha that comes from this investment strategy. We're driving long-term value, and we are finding investment opportunities which might be overlooked by mainstream investors. And finally, we are amplifying societal impact. In our experience, investing in SDG number 5 actually invests in 3 to 8 other SDGs. And in a world that is starved of resources to reach the SDG goals by United Nations, we are uniquely positioning our fund to be able to create that catalytic multiplier impact. So I have spoken in macro terms, but you might be saying, all right, Seema, show me proof, show me where this all translates into real money.
We're getting a couple of questions, so I think let's start wrapping up.
Sure. Okay, I could just throw out a few bullet points, and Padmaja, feel free to stop me. But I'm just going to point to a few empirical evidence. When you invest in clean energy value solutions, you could increase your sales by up to 85%. The study done by Shell Foundation. Women entrepreneurs definitely start businesses which are more sustainable. An interesting study, I talked about the farmer yield going up, but if you take girls' education and small family size, that actually reduces 102.96 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions. Happy to get into that. But that's a very interesting statistic right there. Women who are corporate directors and have a gender diverse board do take on proactively sustainable business practices. The emissions are 0.6% compared to 3.5% for companies that have no women on their board. And finally, still go back to the government here. If you have higher female parliamentary representation, the change makers at that level also contribute to a healthy world. So I'll pause there. Over to you, Padmaja.
Thank you. Thank you, Seema. That was very interesting. I just wanted to, before I open it up to questions from the audience, I just wanted to share a few ground level data that I've picked up at IEN, because we are an investor who's invested in almost 200 companies. I just wanted to share that about 22% of our companies have either women co-founders or at least both the founders are women. Interestingly, from our overall failure rate of 18%, where our companies have failed, women-led companies, either as co-founders or as founders, that percentage has fallen to 10%. Okay. If I look at the IRR that these women-led companies have provided to our investors, it's hovering around 36% overall across these 30 companies. Okay. If I look at women entrepreneurs who have recruited women, top management or second level management, that they have brought in almost 50% of their second level management with women, even if there is one co-founder, right? I think the other interesting statistic that I saw, each of these women-led entrepreneurs, and Bharti is an example sitting here, none of them have set up a company which is focused only on femtech or only for the female market. It is completely open market. So what these women are doing, they're competing with the men on an equal basis. And I think that's very, very powerful and significant to my mind. They are giving the men run for their money. From the investor perspective, we have a dismal number of women investors as we stand today. But that number is changing very, very fast. We are seeing an increasing number of women in private equity and in the investing business, right? Whether they are at partners, whether they are at principals, whether they're at CFOs. And this number is only increasing. There are groups of us who are mentoring women to get into investing business. So that talent pool is gradually but surely increasing. If I look at angels, I think there are angel investors who are increasing both as individuals and as representing their family offices or businesses investing in startups. But entrepreneurship is not only startups and it is not only equity financing, right? Entrepreneurship goes beyond to what I would call MSMEs and SMEs as well. Today in India, if you look at the small businesses that actually are the backbone of the country, and many of these, almost 52% have been set up, 32% have been set up by women. They don't raise equity, they don't come anywhere in the startup ecosystem. But these are the mainstay and backbone of their homes. These women have created Soho businesses, garage businesses, grown them, and they're actually the backbone of their families, of their small economies, home economies, right? So to me, I think women entrepreneurship is something which is not desirable, it's essential. It's absolutely essential to keep not only the home fires growing, but the GDP growing. And I think Rajesh referred to that in his first statement. What we are seeing are two factors. We are seeing a number of schemes from the government where women entrepreneurs are able to raise debt or easy equity. But that's not enough, surely not enough. I think there is a lot more domestic money that needs to unlock for women entrepreneurs. And I think what is most important, and I see this on a daily basis, and Sanjay would be seeing this as well, I think women entrepreneurs, irrespective of gender, build companies, raise monies purely on their competence, performance, and what they can do. I don't think gender is a factor for raising money or building businesses. And I think that's key. We are equal and we build it as we think we can and how we put in the execution power. So I will try and end my comments there. But there is a question from Mr. I hope this is Mr., but let me avoid that. Prabhavati Naidu. And the question, I'm reading out verbatim. Why this approach as women and men entrepreneurs, market one for all? I haven't understood, but if I play this back, it could well be, why should we have a gender approach for women and men entrepreneurs? The market should be for all equally. That's how I read this question. Would any of you like to comment on this?
No, I would be happy to. And Prabhavati, thank you for asking that question. Look, when I joined TiE Global Board back in 2006, and I was the first woman, and I wanted to drive an intention, the one focus was always, it is the same world. It's the same entrepreneur world. Why do you want to mollycoddle? Why do you want to give women an extra space? That's not the issue. From our lens, the issue is not of equality. The issue is of equity. And the statistic that Padmaja read of saying less than 2% of venture equity was going into funds that were women, into companies that were women-led, speaks not of lack of competence, but speaks of lack of access to equitable opportunities. So the playing field, my friend.
I said 14% of the funds that go to women in 2015, that has increased.
No, so actually, Padmaja, we can debate that number. So it was 2% as late as 2018 in the US. And in India, the venture funding is actually much less. And I'm not including, but the number aside, even at 15%, let's even take 15%. That's still not, why is it not equal? And it's not to say that the pipeline is an issue. The pipeline is not an issue. And I've been told so many times you will not find enough women who will be able to take your capital and deliver your return, which I think is A, patently wrong. B, gender equity, you got to peel the onion a lot. It is not about giving money to a person who happens to be a woman. No, it is in our funds ethos and our funds reckoning, we are giving money to promote gender equity because we strongly think it's a lot more nuanced approach to investing as opposed to saying somebody who walks in the door is a woman, so let me give her money. No, we are not doing that. That just happens to be one of we are investing in women-owned, led, or influenced businesses because, Prabhavati, the focus here is we are trying to address this whole equity issue as opposed to equality issue. And even at 15%, it is definitely not equal. It's definitely, most definitely not equitable. And so for us to say, it's like climate, we are in climate, right? Why are we driving a change, such a focus on climate? Because the world has woken up and said, if we don't do something, my God, we literally won't have a world remaining, right? So the same thing is true for gender. And I have spent 2 years and more talking to investors and saying, folks, gender is an impact area. And now the intersection of gender and climate change is really where the action's at. I'll pause.
Thank you, Seema. Rajesh?
I'm in the backstage.
Yeah, would you like to take over?
No, I think you have still 21 minutes, so you can continue to discuss.
Okay, I think the questions have not been passed on to us. I think they come on a different portal and that get forwarded. So would you like to share anything else, Sanjay, Bharti?
Sure, hopefully. I thought so. I will get my chance to voice between all the women. So
Hey, you're not
good
that
that you gave me a little opportunity here. So the way I would like to share some action points. Lot of data and stats have been thrown around. On 18th October, we at 100x.vc we are inviting women-led startups, only women-led startups, to have a direct pitch with all the partners at 100x.vc. So any female entrepreneur who is looking out to get direct access, direct pitching with 100x.vc as a investor partner, you can reach out to us. Apply on pitch at 100x.vc. 18th October is the deadline. The timing 5 p.m. we are having it. Secondly, a lot was told about equity, equality, and all those aspects in terms of entrepreneurship. But the way venture capital game is, and it's an unfair world in venture capital. Everybody needs to accept it. Equal opportunity does not mean equal outcome. Very simple, right? You may get equal opportunity, but it's the entrepreneur which works hard and creates that story of success. So outcomes are never equal. If we try to create equal outcome, right, then we are getting into a socialist mindset where everybody should get funded. It doesn't work that way, right? You can give an equal opportunity to pitch, but the outcome will be very different for everyone. It's going to be merit driven across, right? So I'm very cognizant about abilities, what a female entrepreneur can bring on the table and the way they can drive across the business. But expecting across an equal outcome is a false hope. That's what I would put it across. So everybody would have to fight their battle, be it male or female. And I think as an entrepreneur, Bharti would be able to share more in her journey, where ups and downs in terms of working across or getting access to that so-called holy grail of funding to the next rounds and next rounds and next rounds. It's all on merit, not on just saying that I'm a female entrepreneur. Bharti?
Right. I think, Sanjay, I completely agree with you that ultimately, if you look at the private equity world or the VC world, everyone has to make returns, right? Nobody is going to give money to people just because they come from a certain background, certain gender or race. At the same time, if we look at the current scenario or the current landscape, we obviously see that there are a lot more men who are out there who make more decisions than women do, and hence there is an implicit bias that exists. As an entrepreneur myself, as someone who has also briefly worked in the corporate space, I have realized that generally we have such biases, that as a woman, this person can only play this kind of a role. Or so if we talk about a role of an HR, or if someone has to take notes, right, you would generally look at a woman in the room. I've been looked at as the person who has to take notes so many times that now I categorically don't take notes. I ensure that I don't get assigned that role, right? So we have a lot of implicit bias which already exists in the system, which makes people feel that yes, women are supposed to do certain kind of things, and this doesn't just exist in the household, right? It exists in corporate world as well. That whole corporate housekeeping work which always ends up with women, or this whole idea that if there is something that requires a strong negotiation or an aggressive stand, you wouldn't find a woman to be the right person for that role. So that really needs to change, and the way it will change is when people will start seeing more women doing that stuff, right? It's all of that bias has been created because that's how we've seen people around us grow up. And that's exactly where, as Seema mentioned, the equity piece comes in, right? The moment remove those biases, the moment you set role models out there, and that's when change starts happening. And we are very fortunate to have such role models right now in the ecosystem, but we probably need many more of them to completely, eradicate that implicit bias, and then, we'll have a fair playing ground.
So Bharti, I mean, if I have to, take it up from this, I don't know whether you had seen that, Indira Nui video, which goes around saying that, she got elevated as a president and she was asked to get milk. I mean, that video, absolutely, I feel it's so low in that sense, talks about, patriarchy in such a way. I mean, but these are the real facts, right? And somewhere I think it's more women-driven challenges rather than male-driven, because it's Indira Nui's mother who is pushing.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to see how entrepreneurs and leaders, even female leaders, get treated at home side. It's amazing.
No, but
Yeah.
Bharti speaks to a very.
They make it where they make it, isn't it?
Actually, I
think
have a
that-
question for
that
Bharati.
That to me is very important, because what it says is there is inspiration, and I don't mean only women entrepreneurs, to be honest, Sanjay. I think there are icons who have now who have succeeded, who've created their own space. They've provided the inspiration. They've trod the difficult paths. They've created the pathway. But I think that is exactly the point, that it is now for others to follow, make it a little easier. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of any woman to be doing a manufacturing technology company, which Bharti is doing, honestly. But I think she's broken that path in some ways. So I think that's the market, that's the opportunity that has been created. You and I and Seema probably keep talking about is creating markets. How large is the market? I think for women entrepreneurship, it is a market that has been created. Now for others to come and build companies and harvest it. That's how I view it.
But I want to build upon a point, Sanjay, you made earlier about you don't see any bias when somebody comes. And by the way, our fund, just to clarify again, I said it before, we don't give money just because somebody happens to be a woman. We are driven with the equity impact, which is a lot more nuanced. But I want to remind us all, there's a massive, and the point, and it ties to the point Bharti is making about the expected gender stereotypes. There is a massive selection bias in bringing a Bharti to an investor. For Bharti to be where she is, she's gone through so many hoops already to emerge at where she is, as using Bharti as an example, right? And for every Bharti, there's at least, 100, if not more, other women who'd like to be Bharti, but who were never either given the opportunity, were held back. And in the context of the gender role, with COVID outbreak, lockdown 1, I'm talking chairwoman, and I won't mention her name, of course, of a major corporation. And because help wasn't there, she was relegated to making beds and putting the food on the table. And so the point you make about Indira Nui, you're right. It doesn't matter but the gender roles are so deeply embedded in society that it's going to take forever to change. So it's not, but I want all the investors to be mindful. And that's why listening to a Bharti who's kind of come through so many hoops to be where she is it's like an immigrant going to a different country, right? If you've taken the courage to go to a different country, you've already shown that you're a risk taker. Similarly, by the time a woman arrives at an investor doorstep, she's already shown that she has what it takes to stretch herself. And to me, that's a selection bias that we should be cashing in on.
Yeah, it's honed determination even further.
Absolutely.
Right? But I think that is another piece, that it is not only women. Okay, talk to tier 3, tier 4 entrepreneurs. Men entrepreneurs, they're going through the same journey that a woman entrepreneur is going through. And I think both these people, I mean, there may be others, both these category of people are people who have no option but to do the business best that they can build because they have their backs against the wall. And that is exactly what investors look for, right? That you will build a business irrespective of my money. And I would want to invest in that because that determination, that passion, that leadership, that ability to either go over or go around the hurdles is what we're looking for. So I think that's what makes it happen. Some disadvantage is actually the biggest advantage.
So Padmaja, we at 100x.vc, we have this 100x Gurukul where we invite entrepreneurs and train them. So currently it's a cohort 2 which is happening. Post Diwali, we are launching only women-led founder Gurukul, where this is a not-for-profit initiative where we train women-led startup entrepreneurs on how to build business, scale business, get into exponential thinking. So specific, we are running 2 different cohorts. One is for student entrepreneurs and one is women-led entrepreneur startups kind of. So I think everybody is chipping in and doing their bit kind of stuff. So more the merrier, and I'm sure hopefully we would have soon at least another 50, 70 equal number of unicorns which are led by females. 5 ka 50 banana hai.
Yeah, and I think it would be nice. Think about getting women entrepreneurs who are still building their companies to mentor this group at this group. I mean,
Sure.
people
We'll be happy to invite all of you.
Padmaja,
Yeah.
we're running short of time.
are the
Yeah,
maybe.
please.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're coming to an end of our session. I'll quickly wrap it up. Thank you, Sanjay, Bharti, Seema. Thank you very much. Rajesh, thank you for your help in anchoring this and getting this off the ground and getting us out of the panel quickly and on time. And once again, congratulations TSS and TiE Hyderabad. Extremely well done event. Thank you all.